Do you not recognize these markings? They are old. Old as the fall of the realms. Old and forgotten.
Sending us out to reclaim the power of an ancient city in a horrible bog. That makes about as much sense as building a city in a beast-ridden wasteland.
Perhaps this is one of the great cities of the Age of Myth. A resting place for an artifact of power. This is good. We are close.
Defensible. No orcs.
Death magic.
I see no signs of it, Aiden. But something is keeping the orcs away.
I'm from Shaiish. I know death when I taste it.
Sigmar. A temple? One that still harbors some of its old sanctuary powers by the look of it.
That explains the lack of orcs.
They would be loath to dare this spiritual ward. A divine power, perhaps.
These sigils are newer. I recognize this script.
We need to get past it.
A power that acknowledges the supremacy of Sigmar, it seems. It is no barrier to the righteous.
This is no temple of Sigmar. This place hosts the filth of Nagash!
I'd rather die.
Die first, then join our ranks.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and as you can see we're back here with Realms of Ruin. I was invited by the lovely people at Frontier to once again play the game, which is always great, and check out a new faction. So yes, the third faction for Realms of Ruin that you'll be able to play as has been revealed. This is the Nighthaunt. I was actually quite surprised that the Nighthaunt were going to be included. There was many speculations regarding all the different death factions. A lot of people were thinking it was going to be a vampire coven, but no, the famous frontline ghosty boys are here. Now unfortunately I was not able to play as the Nighthaunt themselves, but we were able to play against them in a brand new mission. There was actually two missions, which you'll see the next one later on and possibly tomorrow, as there is a lot of content here. You can actually see that this video is itself fairly long. It's a brand new mission type 2 where we're playing a little bit of the campaign. Here we have to journey into an ancient city, which has long fallen since pretty much the Age of Myth. Many of the souls here were claimed in the name of Nagash, and he's causing problems. Which, well, I mean, it's Nagash. It's something that we kind of expect all the time. So, this is an interesting thing because it's showing brand new mission types that you will be seeing out for the campaign. Obviously very welcome because nobody wants the usual go point A, point B. This is fairly different. You see that the Chains of Shaiish are actually holding down this area. We're trying to do a bit of a ritual to break the chains. So we have to fight our way through ever-increasing hordes and more hordes of Nighthaunt. Amazingly enough, this gave me a bit of a Warcraft 3 throwback, because if you remember the Battle for Ashenvale, where you're playing as Grom Hellscream, you've got a bunch of things to do, but you're also dealing with waves and waves and waves of enemies, and this kind of felt like that. You have to take down the points. The main thing to note here is that you don't have to actually control all 3 points, but it is a lot faster if you do so, and yeah, it's honestly quite the challenge. I was quite surprised, because at the beginning it was like trying to get my bearings, which is something that you expect. You want to be challenged from a game like this. Your Stormcasts are very, very strong, but you're dealing with just a lot of enemies attacking you. So yeah, you have to plan. Do I send a group over here? Do I send 2 groups? Is it just going to be one massive wave and try to sweep my way across the map as I start taking over locations and building towers? Now, it had been some time since I had played this game, so it does take a little bit of getting used to. You might notice that it does take a while for me to get used to everything all over again. Some things have changed in terms of controls because Frontier have really been listening to the community with regards to how stuff is working, how keybinds are working, literally just click on and click off stuff too. It's amazing to see a dev studio be so reactive, especially since, you know, this is going to be a big title. This is something that we're expecting to be the first proper big game in a video game format for Age of Sigmar, and it's proving to be that. I was able to play 3 missions total, once again, 1 fighting against the Cruel Boys, which we're going to see likely tomorrow. It's just I am kind of pressed for time lately. As you might know, there's a lot of things going around right now, but this one was the main one because Nighthaunts, I mean, who doesn't want to see a brand new faction? Who doesn't want to see what they're capable of? It was pretty cool. I was actually getting swarmed in some cases. There were some times that I was actually sweating a little bit. Because how do you deal with an army of ghosts? How do you make them return to the grave and stay there without the powers of Nagash bringing them back? Well, with a lot of lightning and the power of Sigmar Heldenhammer himself. So, what I've got to say is, so far, the game feels a lot better. It feels a lot smoother from what I originally played. I was able to play around with the settings a little bit here, so maybe you might see a cut or two, because I just don't want to bother showing setting stuff rather than actual gameplay. But it does feel like there's a lot more accessibility here, which, by the way, I really, really appreciate, especially as someone myself. I am kind of hard of seeing, so the accessibility is obviously very, very helpful, especially with a game that I feel like I'm going to throw a lot of hours into. The map itself is very, very cool. You get the Nighthaunt feeling here. Again, it's something that needs to be very, very pronounced, even though we're in Gur, and obviously you saw, if you're familiar with the Age of Sigmar setting, Gur itself is very bestial and so on, right? But the dead are here. The spirits are taking over. Of course, this area is going to have to look more like a necropolis more than it's going to look like a bestial landscape that is untamed. So theming is very, very important, and I feel like it's been done very, very well. Obviously, I didn't really get too much time to be able to look at stuff. That's mostly because this was done in an event where I was pressed for time, everyone was pressed for time, so I only got to play this mission once. I feel like I could have done a lot better, but theming-wise, look-wise, everything looks fantastic. The Nighthaunts look just like the miniatures. Again, very, very important, because when it's a Warhammer title, you know, Warhammer fans like myself, like yourselves, will be looking towards it and wondering, you know, does it look like the miniature? Does it have that feel? Does it fit with the atmosphere and everything that Age of Sigmar represents? The mood is there with the cutscenes, and you can tell that by the intro, and there's also one at the end, so if you want to see that too, you've got that there. But it's the gameplay, right? It's very easy to make a cutscene look very good, as we've seen with many, many, many Warhammer titles, yet the gameplay isn't so good. But yeah, this is getting much, much better. This game is really giving me a lot of hope that Age of Sigmar is getting the love and care it actually deserves, because even as myself, as a Warhammer Fantasy fan first and foremost, I do believe that the setting is starting to get into much better grounds, especially with 3rd edition, so now's the perfect time. Good video games, good cinematics, good everything. We need to see this being nurtured, and obviously Frontier are one of those companies which, come on, let's be honest, they've produced very, very good games. It's not surprising that they're going to do a good job here so far. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see, because you still need to keep your defenses up as a Warhammer fan, but I have a lot of faith that Frontier will do a very good job. I very much enjoyed this so far. My only real issue is I want to be able to play as the Nighthaunt before I can make actual proper full judgment regarding the race, knowing the full roster, and in general, just wanting to see how they feel, how they differ from the Cruel Boys, who are a bit more sneak, and then you've got the Stormcast, who are very good at range, but also very good at the front lining. I want to see how they do. We've been able to see a bunch of units, which, if you're familiar with the tabletop, you'll be able to kind of guess, more or less, what they'll be doing. The Nighthaunt are very good at swarming here, from what I've been able to see, but they're also good at just doing a lot of damage. It will be evident throughout this video, because there's certain times where yeah, I forget about a group and they just end up getting slaughtered. It's more, I was looking around, I was trying to make sure that I could multitask, because whilst I'm used to this type of gameplay, I do get, like, forgetful. I'm going to be very, very honest there. Just a very quick note before anyone starts pointing out something like, for example, a frame issue or a mouse issue or something. The fact is, this was recorded remotely, so I was online through a program called Parsec. That program usually causes actual issues, so it's not representative of actually what you're seeing. Sometimes I just had a bit of a lag spike here and there, so yeah, I had a bit of an issue. It's not the game, it's the program. But it's understandable considering the fact that obviously I'm in Gibraltar, so I wasn't there to record it in person. It's just one of these things. I'm only saying this because it's happened before, obviously not only with just this game, but when we were doing the early promotions for Total War Warhammer 3, it's just very important to note, it's not the game. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to let it play out for about 2 to 3 minutes, so you can hear the game, you can hear how playing in something that's tainted by Shaiish, you know, the Wind of Death, and, you know, get the feel of, well, atmosphere. The atmosphere is something that is very, very important for a Warhammer game, because without atmosphere, it ends up becoming something else. It isn't really Warhammer, it's just something with the name Warhammer.
Found our foes. Your hunters stand ready. Move on.
The enemy are seizing our arcane conduit. An arcane conduit is under threat.
Take up new position.
We can see the enemy. We are yours to command. For Sigmar's glory, we advance. Our hammers doom them.
The enemy will break.
An arcane conduit is under attack.
We are yours to command. We can see the enemy.
We can see the enemy.
to victory!
Get stuck in!
Banner of the Reforged.
We have found Sigmar's foes.
The enemy attempt to wrest power from us.
The music itself is very eerie, as you can tell, so it gives you that feeling that the Nighthaunt is surrounding. Obviously, it's a bit of a slower paced mission, but this is one of those ones where you have to really push to like loads of different locations. You have to make sure that you're holding down loads of places too. I must say, quite like these types of missions, as long as it's not obviously the majority of the campaign, but we've seen different styles already, which is great. You know, the more the merrier. You want themes, especially this is going to be something campaign based. So far, very, very, very pleased. The big thing is, I don't really know what difficulty this was. I think this was a normal. I know that we had the choice of picking, but I just honestly can't remember. It was a little bit of a while back, and obviously, you know, I've got the memory of a goldfish sometimes. What we have seen so far is with all the different mission types, there is different strategies. For here, you'll want to take over different locations and build up towers to be able to do some damage at the enemies as they come for you. In other missions we've been able to see, you're going to have to kind of think more about the units that you're using. Here I was using a lot of vanguards because they're just pretty damn good from what I've seen. I wasn't able to get all the units out. I was just trying to get masses out because if they were dealing with hordes, obviously I wanted to have a horde back. In all honesty, there's probably other better ways to do this. There's probably much more competent RTS players who've been able to do this mission quickly. I've done it in, what, I think it was like 30 minutes or a little bit less. But I still think that it was actually fairly decent in terms of timing, mostly because I was just kind of moving around looking at the pretty map and seeing what could be done. The prosecutors were fantastic here, I must say, because obviously being able to fly around and get behind enemy lines, very useful because you've got your standard Stormies up front and personal, and then you've got the prosecutors getting from behind, getting the enemy on the flank to get maximum amount of damage out there. So far, yeah, very much like this. I think that the Storm Drake itself would have been very useful. I got a little bit confused as to upgrades and so on. That's more me, because again, memory of the goldfish, where I feel like if I would have remembered how to be able to maximize getting the Storm Drake out, I would have been in a much better place. But then again, this is still quite early on. Balancing also is something that will change in the future. By the time that this game gets released, some things will change. Keep that in mind. But yeah, you've already seen like big swarms. They even get bigger as the mission progresses. You'll be dealing with more and more and more. Yeah, so far so good. I'm actually really, really impressed with what we're getting. A mission like this isn't really something that you can brute force, and it's one of my biggest flaws. I try to brute force a lot of things. So yeah, I did actually have a dev pop into the chat and go, hey, use the prosecutors. They are very, very helpful. So thank you for that if you're listening, because if not, things would have gone really, really bad really, really quickly. So yeah, you know, even I, who like do this a lot, need to get a little bit of a hint every now and then, especially when if it's a game that I'm just not used to. Obviously, it's a game that I've not really played that much because I've not had that many opportunities. However, I'm hoping that there'll be more opportunities as we get closer to launch, and I'm assuming so, you know, just wishful thinking though. It's more of the case that obviously, we've seen a Destruction faction, we've seen a Order faction, we've seen a Undead faction, and we know there's 4 factions, so the next one is logically going to be Chaos. There's only 4 Grand Alliances, and as you guys know, I favor Chaos more than anyone else. While I do play the Cruel Boys on the tabletop, I am a massive fan of Chaos in general. That's very obvious with every setting. I play Chaos in 40k, Fantasy, Age of Sigmar too, so I'm hoping that it's going to be a fun one. The great thing that Chaos has in in Age of Sigmar compared to, well, even Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40k is that chaos is so varied. You do have the Disciples of Tzeentch, for example, who are very magical based, but also have some decent front line. You've got the Hedonites of Slaanesh, who are very, very quick and so varied at that too. The Blades of Khorne, which is obviously a very brute force faction. There's so many, so I can't wait to see what is going to happen in terms of that. And I do think that this game, if it does well, has the potential to potentially have DLC in the future, to introduce new factions, new campaigns, and pretty much a lot of stuff. That's a lot of the things that we hope for. As Warhammer fans, we hope for replayability and we hope for shiny new toys as time progresses because, well, let's be honest, we have no impulse control. I mean, I'm looking right now at the table and there's a lot of miniatures that I'm painting and yeah, I have no impulse control and I know that you don't either. Now, full disclaimer, obviously I don't know if that's the case, that Frontier have DLC plans for the future and so on. I don't think that anything like that has been discussed, and as a creator, I still wouldn't even be privy to such information, but we've known that they are quite good with DLCs, obviously from Jurassic World and stuff like that, so hopefully we can see more. And there's a lot of factions in Age of Sigmar, let's be very, very honest, so a lot of people would want to see their favorites. One of my favorites are the Hedonites of Slaanesh, obviously the Skaven, and just so many of their... Plus, I mean, come on, the cities of Sigmar have just gotten fancy new models. I believe they're up for pre-order next week or something, I'm not 100% too sure, but there's a lot of factions that people would love to see. So yeah, I mean, you never know for the future, and as long as it keeps coming with fancy new content, nobody's really going to complain now, are they? These showcases are very important, even if you're not able to play as the actual race, because at least you will be able to see how the units will work, and just show that there's a lot of level of care and attention put into it, right? We want to see each of the races acting differently, so you're not playing the same thing over and over again, just with a different unit model, because stuff like that just kinda gets boring, right? The main thing here that I want to talk about gameplay-wise is you've seen that Retreat and Charge have different keys. Again, very, very good. You can customize those keybinds anyway, you can have a lot of fun with it and just tailor it to your experiences, but it does feel a lot better, and this is something which is very, very important because yeah, I didn't really like the keybinds originally, the ones that were shown to us in the first showcase. I was very, very vocal about that because, you know, it needs to be familiar and easy to use, especially not just for players like myself, but players like you who might be used to playing a lot of RTS games. You've got muscle memory, right? Muscle memory is very, very common when it comes to these types of games, so it needs to be similar to other ones, yet a little bit different to have its own design. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it play out a little bit more so you can get a little bit of scope and scale and just see how everything is going, get a little bit of atmosphere again, because again, atmosphere, especially for a Warhammer title, very, very important.
Enemy spotted. Stand ready.
The army has gained more Vanguard Raptor long strikes.
Ring as command. Heading to new location.
We are yours to command.
He can get me.
Our battle line is losing ground, Lord.
The Shaishian bindings resist Azir's light. You must buy me more time, Sigrid.
Sigmar has dispatched more Vanguard Raptor long strikes.
Ready? And loose!
Orders, Lord.
Banner of the Reforged. Our troops are securing important ground. Our gains bring victory closer.
The Shaishian bindings resist Azir's light. You must buy me more time, Sigrid.
Our weapons are ready.
Our control of the arcane energies has...
I feel a weaver of death magic countering my efforts. They have a sorcerer.
Break the bindings. We will deal with it.
Enemy maneuvers are turning the battle against us. The enemy attempt to wrest power from us.
will prevail!
We follow Sigmar's will. Vanguard Raptors, move to new position.
So I'm going to make something very, very clear. You might have noticed some audio issues there, so I did cut a few of them just so it's not so constant. That's not actually the game, that was Parsec. Unfortunately, this is why I detest that program so much, because even though it's very useful to be able to, try out a game which, without having to fly out to a different country, because I'd still have to fly to the UK if I wanted to play this in person, which would have been impossible for me given recent circumstances. It does bug out a lot. So yeah, it's not the game's fault, don't you worry about that. I've said this before, but I'm just making it very clear because I know some people are going to jump into the defense going, oh, this is not a good thing. It's not the game's fault, don't worry. Anyways, from what we've been able to see, everything does look very, very impressive. I'm quite happy with everything that we've been able to see. It's looking good. It is looking very, very good. My main thing again is I just want to see some new factions. I want to see some fancy new stuff, and just in general, my main want is I want to see a Chaos faction. It does look like it's a lot more stable from everything that we've seen. Again, I can't complain too much about stability because Parsec, right? Because when I played this live in TwitchCon, I was actually invited by Frontier to play this. It was very, very stable. Everything worked as intended. I had no issues, barring that little one issue where the difficulty was way too much compared to the others. But they addressed it really, really quickly too. I found it kind of funny more than anything, to be honest, because you going in an easy mode to see how things are going to react, so you can see AI and how it reacts in difficulties, and the easiest one ends up being really, really difficult. I actually really found that hilarious. Not like most people were checking out the difficulty anyway, because they were playing in an open beta, so they were trying to play against other players. This is something where most people were really going to see if this is a game that they wanted to put some time into in a PvP aspect, because obviously PvP is very popular for these types of games. Company of Heroes, Warcraft 3 is still very, very, very popular, which is actually surprising considering, Blizzard. So hopefully this gets a lot of traction, because as we are all aware, if a game gets support from the fan base, it does actually get a lot more support from the developers. New content, new stuff, and just in general new everything, right? Or at least that's what we can hope for, because I want to see more. Again, I want to see Age of Sigmar do well. I know that Age of Sigmar takes a lot of aggro for a lot of reasons. It does get blamed for the death of another setting, don't get me wrong. It's something that even I blamed it for, but that was more acting on, emotion rather than anything. Logically, it wasn't really Age of Sigmar's fault. Age of Sigmar came afterwards. It's something that I feel could be done well. Age of Sigmar has this thing where it's not really a big grand strategy type of scenario, but it is a smaller skirmish army style scenario, which is what we're getting here. And I think that this is really going to showcase Age of Sigmar's strength. And thank God it's not another turn-based title. Let's be honest, Warhammer has way too many turn-based titles, which really, I get it. I understand why it's done that way, but seeing the troops fight in real time, seeing the troops active, animations more so, it makes it feel more like a living, breathing world, which is good for context, and it's good for the overall push for the setting, not just here, but I feel everywhere, right? A good video game, as we've seen with Total War Warhammer, as we've seen with Dawn of War, a good video game makes the setting overall for the hobbyists much better, because it means more attention will be taken to the hobby too. We've seen Dawn of War basically put 40k on the map. Total War Warhammer, despite the current issues with Total War Warhammer, did put Warhammer Fantasy back on the map. It's why we're getting Warhammer the Old World. And this, I feel, with enough love and attention, most of that love and attention which we're seeing right now is going to be overall good for Age of Sigmar. Let's hope that this continues. Obviously, this will depend on you guys and what you guys think about this so far. You've been able to play through the open beta. If you haven't, hopefully there's another one in the future, because I feel like that actually is quite good. They ask for support, which is something you don't hear from a lot of devs. It takes a big man to actually admit, yeah, we could use some extra support for feedback, and it would be great if you guys could help us, right? When the devs announced that, I know this might sound cheesy, but they won a lot of good boy points from me. Because again, big company, right? And them asking, yeah, we could use some help from the community. You guys are the ones that play the tabletop. A lot of the devs do, by the way. It's actually been proven. A lot of them talk about their miniatures. I do believe one of the community managers, if not more, has like multiple armies, which again, it's very important when a Warhammer video game dev actually plays the game. That makes you much more confident that this is going to be a good title, right? But yeah, when they were able to ask people for help, that's like, yeah, okay, this is awesome. I do wish I was able to play more of it, though. Unfortunately, I was stuck in TwitchCon, which I was able to play, but, you know, they've got like a time slot thing, and obviously different creators are playing because they need to promote it to different communities. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Let's have a bit of discussion. I should be live right now, so if you want to pop by to my live stream on twitch.tv/thegreatbookofgrudges, I unfortunately won't be playing this, but yeah, come down, talk. Let me know what you guys think about this. I'm always down to talk about lore. I mean, it's very obvious. And yeah, I'll see you all again very, very soon, guys. Have a good day. And while we're at it, paint your miniatures. I know that you've got some stuff pending.
I'll bring victory!
Follow Sigmar's will. The Shaishian binding weakens. Just a little more.
Your hunters stand ready. Cut them down!
Our foes reveal themselves.
Hunters ready!
We are the celestial prosecutors. We shall smite the unclean.
Sigmar's hunters are ready.
The realms will be saved. Every foe must be defeated.
Furious retribution.
Traveling is command.
Our strength grows with the arrival of a celestial prosecutor.
We shall smite the unclean.
I can feel the Shaishian weaving crumble. Arcanus salvia mortis requiem.
We have won. In the
On your feet. Stay close.
I have this. Go!
Cease your lies, filth of Nagash.
Secure the ruins! Destroy any foes that remain!
We have it.
What about the Nighthaunt's words? That was a warning, not a threat.
Lies. That's all that ever dribbles from the mouths of Nagash's dregs.
Maybe so. Maybe not. Is it safe?
All magic is dangerous to those unable to control it. I'm not entirely sure what it is. But it is the power source I divine.
I need more guarantees than that.
Well, I mean, we've fought all the way here. This thing's clearly powerful. Even I can feel it. Why don't we just take it?
Sigrin is right. It is wise to exercise caution. There is a ritual that will let me probe the artifact's past, learn more about it. But it takes much effort. It is dangerous to the mind. I had hoped to conduct it within the safety of our cannabis.
How long will it take?
Minutes. Or hours. I cannot say. The magics are fickle. But once I begin, to prematurely end the spell could trap my mind forever in the past.
We have to be sure before we bring it into the heart of the city.
Keep me safe.
Stormcast! Guard formations!
Zeras temporos acta. Viodoros optica zera temporos arcanos acta. Naldor zeras temporos acta. Viodoros optica zera temporos